Jesus once told a story about a man who had 100 sheep, and one wandered away. Apparently, that's what sheep do. They wander away. They get involved in what they're doing. They're eating, they're not noticing, and before long, they are just not where they were at one time. Derek asked me if I tagged this sheep and painted it to say, "You got away." Well, that's the whole point. That's what I did. I said, yep, this picture describes it well. It says, they wander. And now he's marked as a lamb that wanders off. Children are like that too. They get caught up in what they're doing and all of a sudden they're over there. Or they can follow something that, a balloon that is rolling around the ground and not quite enough helium to fly, and they're trying to catch it, and before long they're just separated. Wandering is something that we understand. For just a few minutes, I want to leave you with an idea. Wonder hinders wonder. It is possible to wander away from God. It was James who said in chapter 5 in verse 19, "If any one of you wanders from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he who converts a sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death and hide a multitude of sins." James says, if you wander from the truth. This word is not about rebelling. I have decided I don't like God, and I'm going to go away from Him. That's not the word. It is not a word that says, well, I just don't know God, and so I don't really have any affinity to God. That's not the word. The word is wonder. The word in the Greek is planao. You know it. It is our word planet. The word means to go off course, to get off track, to go where you were not intended to go. And when the word for planet was taken from that word, it's because the heavenly bodies appeared just to magically wander around. And yet, we know they don't do that, do they? They stay on course. They follow the path. They don't get off the course. See, I understand that analogy. I was playing golf a few years ago up at Houston Oaks in Paris. First time I'd ever seen a cart that had a GPS on the cart. And everywhere you go, it had a little cart. And it showed the carts around you so you'd know where they were. And it told you exactly how far you were from the ball. If they just would have somebody to hit it for me, it'd have been a perfect day. And you order what you want when you make a turn so that your food is standing there. I mean, it was a perfect day. I hit a ball, like sometimes I do, over there to the right, past these little white stakes. Now, for those of you who don't play golf, that's called out of bounds. Well, it was easy to get to. So we just drove our cart over there, and all of a sudden the cart just shut down, stopped, and a voice came over that screen. You have wandered off the course. Turn around, we'll turn the cart back on. Well, I didn't really wander. I went there intentionally. But the idea was there. Wouldn't it be interesting? Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be helpful if when we wander, a voice out of heaven from God says, "You've wandered off course. You better turn around." He doesn't do that. So the idea is, it is possible to wander away from God. You see, this has always been a problem. In Hebrews chapter 3, the writer was talking about the people of the Old Testament, the Jews, and the law and the religion that they had. And he said, you who have obeyed Christ and have adopted the new covenant, why are you going to go back to that? That's what the whole book of Hebrews is about. But in chapter 3, he describes these people, the Jews, and he says, they always wander away from the truth in heart and mind. That's exactly how the Jews were. If you go back and read their history, isn't that the case? They're doing really well, and all of a sudden they're sort of off track, and they're in trouble, and God has to help them get back on track. And then they do well for a while, as long as the judge was there, and then they wander off track, and God has to put them right back on. He said they always do it, because you know what? That's what we do. People wander away from the truth. Therefore, it is God who says, don't you wander from the truth. Be careful. You better be careful, because people are going to do it. He was looking even to our day. 2 Timothy 3 and verse 13. He was looking to our day, saying, evil men and seducers will grow worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. That's the idea of wandering. That's the word. Same word. It's going to happen. People are going to wander away from the truth. Therefore, a number of times in Scripture, God says, don't wander. Like 1 Corinthians 6 and verse 9, do not be deceived, brethren. Then he lists a number of things that will keep people out of the kingdom of God. Don't wander toward the teaching that these are okay. Or how about 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33? Do not be deceived. Don't wander. Evil companions corrupt good morals. Don't let anybody make you wander over here, because that'll get you into trouble. Or how about Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7? Well, the writer Paul says, don't be deceived. What a man sows, that he will also reap. Don't wander away from this. Don't be deceived. What you sow now, you're going to reap later. Therefore, James says it in a very summary fashion, chapter 1, verse 16. Do not be deceived, my beloved brethren. Don't wander. Don't get your attention caught somewhere else. Be careful. You can wander from the truth. Having been raised in Florida, we spent a little bit of time, not a lot, at the beaches. There's a place down there where they created a rock wall at a beach to keep the waves away, and you could have a nice, calm pool type area to be. I got on one of those floating mattresses when I was a kid and went to sleep. Went to sleep. And when I was rousted from sleep, I was way yonder away from the shore. My first reaction was, get back over there. And so I just jumped off. I was this tall. The water was this tall. I had wandered away, not intentionally, certainly didn't want to be, scared to death. Nobody wants to wander. But we do. It is possible to wander from the truth. Let's think about this for a minute. Weariness with God encourages wandering away. Being wearied by God, being, as it were, tired of God, makes people wander away. There are some people who just grow tired. They've had enough. I've had all I can take. The concepts, the way to live, the problems, the people who are against me, it weighs down on me, and I'm just tired. I'm weary of the whole process. People wander away. Listen to the words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 15, verses 8 and 9. Notice what he says first. Routine leads to weariness with God. He said, this people draws near to me with their mouths, but their hearts are far from me. Teaching for doctrine the commandments of men. It's a routine with them. He was talking to the Pharisees. And these Pharisees were people who had a routine. They didn't have any heart. They were just checking boxes and keeping things. And that routine just finally wears you out. You can't keep it up. There's nothing there. There's no reason behind it. There's nothing to give it substance. How many of us have created this routine of exercise? And we want to get in a routine because it helps us do it. We're trying to create the habit, but before long, it's gone. Why? Because your heart is just not in it. It's just not there. That's what he's saying. He's saying these people have a heart that is just not there. They're not on board. These are people who just don't have it because it's routine with them. There's another way to be weary with God, and that's having a casual attitude about God. How much worse punishment do you think he will be thought worthy? Who has trampled underfoot the Son of Man and counted the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified a common thing, and despise the Spirit of God. An approach to God that is casual leads to wandering away. When we don't appreciate the holiness of God, when we don't appreciate who God is, we wander away because it's just casual. It doesn't mean anything. We don't even have a routine because it's hit or miss. I don't really have to do it. It's not that big a deal. I don't expect much. God doesn't expect much. And I become very casual in my attitude and my actions about God. Does that ever happen to anybody? Yeah, some people get in a routine where they're just checking boxes, but they do everything. Others have a casual attitude. And the casual attitude keeps them from doing anything necessarily because it doesn't matter. Just very casual. God is not holy anymore. Therefore, what does God say? You have counted the blood of the covenant to be a common thing? How about third? Ignorance. Listen to what Timothy was told by Paul in 2 Timothy 3 and verse 7. There are those who are always learning, but never able to come to the truth. They're ignorant. They don't get it. They never grow, never advance spiritually, never get to the point of understanding, never are able to move forward and have a depth to their understanding of God's. Oh, they know a whole bunch of stuff. They've read a whole bunch of things, but they don't know anything. And that ignorance of God could cause you to wander away. It's possible. And this weariness with God comes because of these things. If anyone finds himself wandering from God, is it because your relationship with God is merely routine? Just checking boxes and doing everything because you have to. And eventually, the routine just gets old. And you wake up and you say, oh my, where have I gone? Do you ever find that you have a less than honorable view of God, meaning He's become very casual to you? I've heard it. I don't want to say that this person's attitude was that, but the action seemed to me to be. When a man stood to lead prayer and he said, "Hello, God." That seems awfully casual to me. I understand that God is near. I understand He wants a personal relationship. And He's not far from us, Acts 17. But He is far above us. And if we dare keep a casual attitude towards Him, we'll wake up one day and find that we're way yonder from the shore of safety. And if you ever wander from God, if you're ever tired, is it because you just quit growing in your knowledge? You don't know. You don't understand. You don't get it. The Hebrew writer said in chapter 12 and verse 3, "But consider the one who endured such actions of sinners against himself," speaking of Jesus, "lest you become weary." Don't grow weary with God. Prevent weariness to set in, because you will wake up one day and find that you've wandered far from the place you want to be. But finally, wonder hinders wander. Don't you enjoy watching children learn? Isn't it fun when they're really little and everything amazes them? I mean, it's incredible. You know why grandparents think grandkids are the greatest thing? Because those grandkids think the grandparents do the greatest things. It doesn't matter what we do, it's the best. That's just it. And then life in general unfolds for these little ones, and they love it, and their eyes get big, and they are fascinated, and everything is wow. Do you ever sit and think about God and go, wow? Have you lost your wow factor with God? Scripture presents God as an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and might. Our God is an awesome God. And there's a way that that word should be used only for God. Those of you who are sports fans, you get to the end of Sports Center because you want to watch the plays of the day. And you sit back and you go, wow, it was awesome. But that's nothing compared to God. He's awesome. How do people look at the world He created and think that God didn't do it? I did a lot of reading just on awesome things. I learned some things that helped me. Did you know that the land to water ratio on the planet is 1/4 to 3/4? Take half of the land, make it water. Now you have marsh everywhere. Take half the water, make it land. Change that ratio. Now you have desert everywhere. That ratio is perfect. It's wonderful. The evaporation cycle is wonderful. I didn't know that water is 800 times heavier than the atmosphere. Well, how does it get up there? Because the rays of the sun turn it into vapor. And the vapor is 900 times lighter than the atmosphere. And millions of tons of water every day are taken as vapor up into the clouds. How do those clouds hold on to it? If they dropped it immediately, at one time, the whole earth would be covered with 3 feet of water more than now. So, God allows the situation to happen slowly. And that evaporation cycle takes that water from the oceans, where they already have enough. The winds move it into land. Going over the mountains, it now cools, and now it can drop back on the land, and some of it goes back into the water because the salt was taken out, and now it goes back in as pure water to give oxygen to the marine animals. Wow! The Gulf Stream's incredible. As it makes its rounds, it starts out at 84 degrees. This river running in the ocean, 7 miles wide, 3,000 feet deep. And as it circles and comes back up on from the Pacific, comes back over to the Atlantic, it's still 80 degrees. And as it drives north and hits the Arctic, it dives way down below the cold and comes back up in the Indies to give cooling in the tropical summer. Without the Gulf Stream, the southern hemisphere would be frozen. The northern hemisphere would stay frozen all the time. Wow. Wow. I read about the ouzel bird out in the Pacific. Apparently this bird floats on the water, and while you're watching it, all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. It drops to the floor, walks around on the floor of the ocean, eats, walks back up to the shore, reinflates, and floats again. It has a muscle. While it is floating, it contracts and all the air goes out immediately. And it drops like a ton of lead weight to the floor. And then walks around and eats. And once it gets on the land, the muscle expands and the air comes right back in and it can float again. Wow. There's a guppy type fish on the West Coast that has bifocal lenses. You see, it eats little bitty microscopic plankton. And it has to see it up close. But it also is the favorite food of the seagulls. So it watches to see when the gulls are coming from far away. It has bifocal eyes. At the same time, it can look up and see when the birds are coming, and look down and see the microscopic food it will eat. Wow. And when the bees go gather the nectar, it gets all over them. I didn't know that bees don't breathe when they're collecting pollen, because it covers them all over. And if they breathe, it'd kill them. So they don't breathe. But when they come out, they get their breathing capacity back because they have brushes on their knees and they brush it off. Wow. Oh, sorry. But all of that just happened by chance. Wow. Some people really believe that? One person said, he wrote a book, in fact, saying, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. It's a whole lot harder to believe, and I just gave you that much. That can be multiplied over and over and over, and I don't have enough faith to accept that that came by chance on its own. That's the wow factor with God. Wow. You keep on having the wonder of God, and you will hinder your wandering from God. Today, I hope you are filled with the awesomeness of the God of heaven. Through the creation that He has made, get your children books that show the various things in creation that are wow. Let them read it. Tell them about it. You know what? Well, I've been up here telling these stories about these wow things. You know what all these little kids are doing? They're tuned in. You know why? Because kids wonder. Feed it, parents. Give it to them. And you have a lot less chance that they later will wonder. If you've not been on board with God, today's a good day to do it. To obey your Lord in baptism, rise to be a brand new person. giving your life to Him, and then you can live in this life of wow. If you want to come back to the Lord, you've wandered away, we're here for you while we stand and sing together.